Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. Julian here with the Week 7 Drops episode. That's right guys, this is the episode where I tell you which players you should consider cutting from your team. Now I am recording this video a little bit in advance, so if any of these guys have suddenly gone off after not doing anything basically all year, I apologize. Probably hold on to them, but otherwise guys, these guys are very easy drops for the most part. So before we get started guys, please leave a like and consider hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you already have, consider clicking the link down below to my Patreon and taking your support to the next level. And there's some pretty nice perks over there on my Patreon, like being able to DM me one-on-one, ask me any questions you need whenever you want. I do answer once a day at the very least, so definitely consider doing that, and it means a lot to me too that you're supporting the channel. Let's jump into it now guys, and let's start with some forwards that you can consider dropping from your fantasy team. And first on the list is Johnny Gaudreau. Much like 2 weeks ago when I had him on the list then, he is still a drop and he's still owned in 69% of leagues. Now, Johnny Gaudreau is not a drop in all leagues, obviously. If you're in a 12-man league or higher, I'd still consider holding this guy on my team because obviously his ceiling is super high, but we have not seen a whole lot from him this year, and I'm definitely starting to get worried at this point. 8-10-man leagues, super easy drop. 12-man league, it's debatable, but deeper than that, Johnny Gaudreau is a pretty fair, easy drop. Seth Jarvis is another guy who I never have been super high on as long as he's been in the NHL, which obviously hasn't been that long, but Seth Jarvis was definitely overproducing at the start of the year this year. And he's still playing on the top line and top power play with Sebastian Aho, so it's kind of crazy that he's dropped off as much as he has. But in deep leagues, I'm definitely still hanging on to Seth Jarvis. He's just an easy drop in 8 to 10-man leagues right now. He definitely could pop back off, so if you want to hold and wait it out, you can do so. But definitely right now he's hard to hold. Then we have Trevor Zegras, who has only 2 points in 12 games so far with the Ducks. And the Ducks have been doing really well, especially that top line that he's been playing on for the most part with Terry and with Carlson. That line's been doing pretty freaking well. So the fact that Zegras only has 2 points is really disappointing. It's a dude that has so much potential. And honestly, it's tough to see for him. But right now, he's not doing a whole lot of anything, and he's definitely difficult to hold. Now, as of this recording, Zegras was just placed on IR. We have no idea how severe this injury is because the Ducks have given us zero update at all, but he could potentially return in a couple of games. Obviously, if you have the IR space, there's no reason to drop Zegras right now, but if you don't, and you're kind of struggling with that IR room, it might be worth dropping Zegras right now. If you're in a shallower league, if you're in a super deep league, you kind of do have to hold on to Zegras and hope and pray that he turns things around, which he should at some point. Last year, in the second half of the year, Zegras started doing a whole lot better than he did in that first half. He wasn't doing all that great in the first half of last year either. So definitely something to keep your mind open about. If you are in a shallower league, Zegras is definitely droppable here. Remember what I said about Jake DeBrusk a couple weeks ago, that he was on drop watch? Well, now, guys, it's finally time to drop Jake DeBrusk, and this is in the majority of leagues at this point. He hasn't seen top power play time basically all year, and now he's on the third line with Petra and Heinen. I definitely do not want a piece of that line. It's not that great of a line, and DeBrusk should be dropped in the majority of leagues. If you're in a super deep league, you can still hold on to him, but in most formats, 10, 12, 14 team leagues, you can definitely probably drop Jake DeBrusk. And then I have Erik Haula, who had a really amazing beginning of season for New Jersey, and he was added in quite a few leagues. And then Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier, their two top centers in New Jersey, got injured, and you'd think that their third line center would now suddenly have a much bigger role, but no, they promoted McLeod, who's their fourth line center, and then Dawson Mercer, who was a winger, to their top two centers, and Hall is still a third line center with very mediocre line mates in Palat and Lazar right now. It's just not a recipe for success, and at this point, Haula is definitely droppable. I was recommending him quite a bit when New Jersey had those really nice off-night schedules a couple of weeks ago, but I do not recommend Haula to be on your fantasy team anymore. Let's take a look at defensemen now, and the first guy I have on this list is Luke Hughes. And before you freak out at me, Luke Hughes is only a drop in 8-10-man leagues, potentially 12-man leagues if it's a shallower 12-man league, because Luke Hughes puts up basically no peripherals at all. So it's kind of rough to hold the guy who's not putting up points and is also putting up absolutely nothing for you. If he was putting up no points but was still putting up plenty of peripherals, he wouldn't be an issue at all. But the fact that he's not doing a whole lot peripheral-wise is definitely hurting his overall value. Now, he is still playing on the top power play unit with Timo Meier, Tyler Toffoli, Jesper Bratt, Andre Palat, but ever since Jack Hughes left, he hasn't recorded any points on that top power play, so it's definitely rough to see, and I definitely think that he's going to get a whole lot more value once Jack Hughes returns, but as of right now, Luke Hughes has very minimal value. If you do drop him, just potentially be prepared to scoop him up once again once Jack Hughes comes back, because he could definitely regain some value once he does. And then I have Jake Sanderson of the Ottawa Senators, 69% rostered, and yes, he's still on the top power play there, so why am I recommending that you drop Jake Sanderson? Well, the biggest reason here is not because he's producing less, which is absolutely true. His production has really gone down a lot, and his peripherals, much like Luke Hughes, are not really that great. They're better than Luke Hughes's, but not by that much. The really big reason here is that Jake Sanderson and the Ottawa Senators only play one game this week, and that is absolutely not enough to justify holding this guy on your roster. Obviously, if you're in a super deep league, you have to hold him, despite the Sens only playing one game this week. But if you are in a shallower league, 8-man, 10-man, even potentially 12-man, you can consider dropping this guy this week because he's not going to provide a whole lot of value for you playing only one game. Then I have Jacob Slavin of the Carolina Hurricanes, still 65% rostered. And he has 1 point in his last 9 games. Actually, he went on an 8-game pointless streak before finally snapping it with an assist. Now, I don't know why so many of you guys are insisting on rostering Jacob Slavin. He's not a defenseman who really puts up that many points. He put up a lot at the beginning of the season, but that's not something that's the norm for him. He's one of the best defensemen in the league, in my opinion. Very, very good defensively. And the peripherals are okay, but not really enough to justify owning in more than a few percentage of leagues. The fact that he's owned in 65% of leagues is absolutely crazy. He should be dropped in the vast majority of the leagues. He shouldn't be owned in more than 20% of leagues or so. And then I have Oliver Ekman-Larsson of the Florida Panthers up to 43% rostered, and he's doing really, really well right now. But with Montour coming back finally, that guy is going to take over the top power play and knock Oliver Ekman-Larsson off. And that kind of erases any kind of value that Oliver Ekman-Larsson has. And also a lot of the minutes that Oliver Ekman-Larsson was eating are now going to be eaten by Ekblad and Montour. Both those guys are coming back. And so OEL's role is definitely going to be reduced a lot, and that's why he's a drop. If you can trade him to someone who doesn't know better, go ahead and do that instead, but be prepared to drop OEL pretty soon. And then finally I have Ivan Provorov of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I kept having him on my ads video, but I kept telling you guys that he's doing well right now. He's putting up an assist pretty much every single game, putting up a couple blocks as well, which is good. But I told you guys that once the points start drying up, he's going to have very little value. Just getting a couple blocks here and there, that's not enough to justify owning him on your team. So at this point, the assists have dried up, and it's time to drop Ivan Provorov in the majority of leagues that own him. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. If you haven't already, guys, hit that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.